The Mandalorian is a great show. Roaring onto our screens in 2019, it offered a grungy return to Star Wars' samurai cowboy roots. It was a refreshing, bold, and widely beloved take on the Star Wars universe. But towards the end of its first season, the cracks started to appear, and they've only gotten worse since. The MacGuffin, a term popularized by Alfred Hitchcock, is an item of extreme value to not only the protagonist, but to their adversaries. It's also an example of weak storytelling. MacGuffins often strip their stories of moral ambiguity and of general complexity, but this isn't necessarily a bad thing, especially in the film medium. The Indiana Jones movies base their plots almost exclusively on MacGuffins as a foundation. In fact, A New Hope bases its plot on the MacGuffin of the Death Star plans. When it comes to TV shows with 5 times the length, however, all excuses for conflict degrade, and the MacGuffin in particular has a short shelf life. It quickly grows tiring watching the villains fumble for their goal. The Mandalorian presents 2 major MacGuffins, the first of which is the armor worn by the protagonist. Din Djarin's armor is made of a rare metal called Beskar, which essentially makes him invulnerable to most attacks. Now this isn't a conventional MacGuffin, it's more of a plot contrivance. It allows him to take hits and keep fighting, but making him so strong with the use of a physical item is brilliant on multiple levels. For one, it makes the action more epic, as the enemies Mando goes toe-to-toe with need to be more intimidating to keep up. Furthermore, the armor itself draws conflict upon him. Season 2 opens with a skirmish between Mando and some underworld thugs who want his armor. The second MacGuffin is Baby Yoda. Functionally, Baby Yoda is used similarly to the Mandalorian armor, drawing conflict whilst also contributing during battles. However, Baby Yoda has some fatal flaws that the armor doesn't. The armor is tied to Din Djarin. It's part of his identity, and therefore it's associated with an interesting, relatively varied character. Grogu, however, is a character in his own right, and therefore, unlike the armor, has to be interesting on his own. Over the series, Baby Yoda is only presented with 2 distinct character traits. He likes Din Djarin, and he's hungry. Heavy reliance on MacGuffin storytelling might be okay for a first season, but when it comes time for season 2, the stakes need to be raised, and the story needs to progress. In addition, The Mandalorian has a villain problem. The Imperial officer from the season 2 episode The Believer gets more development in a single scene than the main antagonist Moff Gideon does over 2 seasons.
To the Empire.
After sneaking into an Imperial base, Mando is trying to access a terminal, but he's having trouble. The officer notices him and, thinking it suspicious, investigates. So he's intelligent, difficult to deceive. Thankfully, Mayfeld is able to deceive him, but only with intimate knowledge of the Empire and their practices. However, when Mayfeld tries to leave, the officer says he hasn't dismissed them yet. The officer is beholden to tradition and Imperial order. Upon discovering that Mando and Bill Burr recently delivered a shipment of MacGuffinium, the officer decides to treat them to a drink. He rewards his troops, but only does so in a traditional way. When it comes to the toast, it becomes clear that the officer is an old soldier. He's charismatic, lamenting on Operation Cinder as an Imperial victory, despite the loss of at least an entire division. Even while reveling in the operation's glory, the officer admits that he found some of his decisions difficult. He's sentimental, but also regretful. It becomes clear that he's using the glory of the Empire to cover up and justify his own guilt. It's his way of living with the decisions he's made. He keeps his eyes on what he perceives as the greater good. He points out how the New Republic is in disarray, and how the Empire and its order is what people really need. He's then shot by Mayfeld, and there goes the best villain of the series. The officer was a thematic embodiment of the Empire post Return of the Jedi. He was thematically and plot-wise the perfect villain for the show.
You have something I want.
In contrast, the main villain of the series, Moff Gideon's character traits are far more limited. While the Imperial officer wants to revel in the power of the Empire, similar to Emperor Palpatine, Moff Gideon wants Baby Yoda.
You have something.
Let's look at his introductory scene. Moff Gideon appears and has a big speech about how much he wants Baby Yoda.
You
he essentially explains that there is a MacGuffin and he wants it.
I want.
But we already know that the Empire wants Baby Yoda, so the speech is superfluous and doesn't tell us anything new about Moff Gideon's character. In his second episode, Moff Gideon's forces set up an E-Web blaster turret, and Gideon's next big monologue is about how scary the E-Web is. We already know the E-Web is scary because it's a big gun, therefore this monologue is also superfluous. Our next major encounter is at the end of Series 2. Moff Gideon allows Mando's team to land on his ship. He could have fired on their ship at any point. He could have locked onto them with a tractor beam. However, Gideon does nothing. He fails. When we next see him, Gideon is holding the Darksaber above Grogu. He has the advantage over Mando. He knows that Mando won't make a move while Grogu is in danger. He then tells Mando that he's imagined the entire plot of the episode thus far. This is a petty attempt to make him feel ominous, an attempt which serves no purpose given what comes next. Gideon gives up Baby Yoda and then loses a fight with Mando. This is dumb on a couple of levels. First off, the only piece of character development we have about Gideon is that he wants Baby Yoda. His first big speech is about how he wants Baby Yoda. Everything he does is to get Baby Yoda. He gives up Baby Yoda so that he can pointlessly slam his Darksaber into Mando's armor. If he truly knew as much as he says, Gideon would know that Mando's armor is lightsaber proof and that even attacking him in the back isn't likely to end well for him, so he shows us that he's an idiot. In one of his final scenes, Moff Gideon gets his hands on a blaster, shoots Bo-Katan, who he knows is wearing blaster-proof armor, attempts to kill Baby Yoda, which he could have done in the cells, and then tries to kill himself so he doesn't get captured. If Gideon wanted to prevent his capture, if he wanted to kill Baby Yoda, if he wanted to kill Bo-Katan, he had the perfect opportunity to retreat from the cells holding Baby Yoda hostage and setting a trap for Bo-Katan after his escape. He knows she'll come for him because he has the Darksaber, he has the perfect bait, but instead, he waits till he's on the bridge and pulls this nothing attempt. So at the end of 2 seasons, the only things we know about Gideon are that he wants Baby Yoda and that he's an idiot. In contrast, from our single scene with the officer, we know that he takes pride in the Empire, he cares for his troops wanting to reward them, he feels regret about his actions, and uses his devotion to the Empire to justify his regret. He's compelling, he's charismatic, and Gideon just isn't. In short, the officer is a villain done right, and Gideon is a villain done wrong. Even Giancarlo Esposito can't save this character from his current state. Mando has a villain problem and a MacGuffin problem. Maybe season 3 will fix this, or maybe it'll be more of the same. They have a formula people like, and if Marvel is anything to go by, Disney will struggle to adjust that formula.